Welcome to The Human Element, presented by Whisk. I'm your host, Barb Biden, and in each episode, I sit down with CHROs and senior HR leaders to explore how AI, innovation, and human insight are reshaping the future of HR. We'll explore how technology is reshaping leadership, strategy, and the role of HR by sharing candid stories, practical ideas, and strategic perspectives to help you shape the future. The Human Element is brought to you by Whisk, the leader in agentic HR and creator of Harper, the world's first AI HR generalist. Learn how Harper can resolve up to 80% of routine HR tasks autonomously. Learn more about Whisk at whisk.com. Welcome to The Human Element, presented by Whisk, where we explore how AI and human insight are reshaping leadership and the future of HR. Today, I'm joined by Erica Koenig, CHRO at SPS Commerce. SPS Commerce is a leader in supply chain cloud solutions, helping retailers and suppliers connect, collaborate, and grow through data and automation. Erica leads global people strategy, culture, and organizational design to support SPS's continued innovation and expansion. I am so excited to have you here on the show today, Erica. Thanks for making time.
Yeah, thanks, Barb. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Looking forward to hopping right in. With all the AI momentum, we're all really heads down thinking about the future of work, I think, within our teams. How are you working to help SPS Commerce prepare the workforce for an AI-enabled future while still keeping a people-first culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think everyone's probably grappling with that to some degree. So a couple of things that we're doing, I think first and foremost, I think really involving our employees early through pilots, helping them actually co-create some of the things that we're working on, I think really helps just initiate the people side, and it's not being done to them, but they're actually a part of it. So I think that's first and foremost where we've focused. We have a leadership model, and some of the leadership capabilities that we're really honing in on are curiosity, adaptability, and critical thinking. And these, I feel like, are really some of the biggest skills that people need to thrive in an AI environment. So really helping build those capabilities and strengthen them as we embark on the AI journey. And really also just reinforcing that with our employees that AI is here to help us. It's not to replace us. And that we still have to think about, if you think about the head, heart, and hands, the heart and hands are really what our employees do, whether it's dealing with our customers or internally. And so helping them figure out what are the ways that we can make their work easier, maybe reduce some of the tasks that are repetitive, maybe not as engaging, and really focusing on what are the areas that we can create better customer impact, have them work on more innovation, relationship building. So really saying where is AI fit and where do our employees fit in? And then we have a lot of employee values. And one of the things I love about SPS is we talk about them all the time and our employees really live them. So when we're making decisions around AI, some of our values around get after it, we have win today, win tomorrow, and results matter. It's really ensuring that the technology is accelerating how we operate and not compromising who we are to our customers. So those are a couple of the things that we're doing to help enable the workforce.
I love that. AI in that respect is no different than any other thing, right? The way we approach it should be integrated with the things that we integrate with always, like our values, like the concepts around bringing employees along. I like the idea of inviting them into the process with you as well. This really is just a change that is like any other change where we would think about those same things. So I know you are operating in a really complex global environment, and I'm super curious around where you see AI having the biggest impact on your HR operations and decision-making agility across the global footprint that you operate in.
Yeah, as we've continued to grow globally, obviously it becomes more complex. And so I think some of the things where it has value and we haven't completely used it, but we're kind of playing with is how do we look at workforce planning across the geographies? And can AI help us understand what skills and capabilities we're going to need in certain markets to support certain customers? So really on that kind of future skills needs, providing a little more clarity. I think also how do we create a scalable HR function? As many organizations you grow via organic growth, but also acquisition. A lot of times you add in new countries and new geographies. And so for us, I think, how do we scale with the organization without proportionately scaling the HR team? And I think that is really where, from an operational perspective, HR can really leverage AI to support kind of operational areas probably the most. And then we're in the process, it's been a journey. We're in the process of implementing Workday for a new HCM, and we're really excited. Workday obviously has a ton of AI capability. They keep acquiring AI companies, so we're not super far into it yet, but I know just the actual technology and solutions and creating a better employee and manager experience is also going to help us probably do our work a little better and faster. There's the element of like predictive modeling around, can you leverage your people insights to understand like where you're going to have attrition, where is there opportunity with the data that you're getting? Can you find out like where you see trends if people leaving the org, or where you're promoting people faster? All of those things, I think the data insights is going to be really helpful as well as we scale to just make decisions faster using not just gut, but actual real data. So I think those are a couple of areas. I do think there's an opportunity with compliance and risk management as well. Not as sexy, but I think AI definitely can help play a role in that, especially when nowadays you can conjure up like all of the things that are happening across the globe in a compliance perspective and get that data so quickly, or before you're asking experts, you're combing through resources. So I do think the element of just compliance and regulatory really does help as well.
Totally. I think we should send AI after all of the non-sexy things, right? That our teams don't want to be doing, even with the predictive modeling that you're talking about. I think to me, that's just allowing our teams to get to these second order questions that we've always had. It's just sometimes been a matter of time with all of the kind of crunching that we needed to do to get through administrative heavy or less automated tasks. We could want to answer the second order question, but not always be in a position to. And so I'm really excited about being able to get to those really predictive things as well. So this next question is really around where you're at in your journey a little bit. I'm wondering if there's an example of process or a decision that you might be able to share, something that you've already been able to improve through any of the data or AI tools that you're starting to explore within your HR team.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, we did a pilot with our sales team. So they use Gong to record their sales calls. And we took the information out of Gong and are working on how do we actually give people coaching on their calls with leveraging that Gong information and kind of our prescriptive selling model to say, okay, Barb, here's an area that like you could have done a little bit better in trying to close the deal with a customer. So that we have seen, and it's great because people are doing it with their manager, but they can also do it themselves and do some self-learning around learning about things that they could do better. They can practice as well. So that pilot has gone really well, and we're expanding it now that we've got some of the data and we've gotten really good feedback. The other thing that I don't have feedback quite yet, but we launched this week is we've created a performance management coach. So we have loaded in our leadership model. We have people leader expectations that span the entire workforce, as well as like our goal setting, the Albrecht star model, to help leaders with preparing performance reviews. So getting the feedback, putting together performance reviews, and leveraging in the vernacular we use around our leadership model and giving good feedback, as well as helping us do the goal setting. How do we put good goals together, leveraging the information that they have that we're working on in their business, as well as what their employees are doing? So it's a way I think that will, I hate to say it, right? Everybody hates doing performance reviews, but everyone agrees it's super important to get the feedback and the development. And so our hope is with kind of this performance management coach is that people will start doing what we really want them to do, is just giving continuous feedback and development. So if we make it easier, they can, and this way they can, if they get notes from other team members on someone's, how they're doing, they can load it in there and it will summarize and give them some great insights. So that one I'm super excited to see how it works. And I'm sure we'll have to tweak it as we go.
Totally. Not the first time I've said this either, but we do all hate writing performance reviews, and the value is in the conversation, not the sort of academic process of writing the review. So if we can get a hand on the data gathering and the preparation of the sort of written aspect of that, if we choose to have that in our process and focus on the continuous feedback, I am all for that. Just back to the Gong example too, where you're using that with sales teams and then coaching results from that. Obviously, coaching can be keep doing this, but it can also be, hey, change this other thing that you're doing. And I'm curious if there's anything you had to do there to bring employees or leaders along with the fact that AI was going to be watching what you were doing, and then we were going to be using that to help you improve in your job.
Yeah, I think them knowing that this is between their manager, them, it's also a practice they can practice on their own. I think gives people some peace of mind. The good news is their calls are already being recorded. So it's not that someone's just now listening in. I think it's just the ability, a lot of times it was the manager giving them feedback, and now there's actually a third party it may actually feel a little bit safer in some aspects, but I will say, since SPS is a tech organization, I think we're a little more open to the fact that technology kind of enables and helps us in a different way. Yeah, I think as we continue to build, like this performance management coach is a good one. I've gotten the question a lot, hey, do you think employees, how are they going to feel if they know that I didn't completely write this performance review? What you just said, Barb, is spot on, which it's really about the conversation. People want actionable feedback. And if putting a whole bunch of things together gives them actionable feedback that's accurate, then I think people will embrace it. And if it's going to make your life easier and their lives more enriched, then I think it's a win-win. And I think it's just such a huge opportunity. But I do think we have to be really transparent about it with our employees.
Totally. I think AI in terms of compiling materials and keeping it accurate is going to do better than even the best human manager. So maybe your manager's hand did not write every sentence, but I personally think that it's going to be such a much more accurate reflection of what you've actually done. So from an employee perspective, my hope is that is something that really helps employees to embrace that piece of it and then get them to assign the same values that hopefully we do to the conversation with their leader by making their managers really good at those conversations, for sure. Shifting gears just a little bit and related though to what we're talking about, as AI continues to become embedded in everything from recruiting to performance management, like we're talking about, how do you ensure that employees trust the systems and still feel like they're being seen as individuals?
Yeah. I think this one I wouldn't say a hard one. I just think it's going to evolve. I think as AI continues to infuse itself in everything, we're going to have to keep an eye on it. So one, I think why are we using AI? It's about like speed. It's about, not replacing the relationships and the humanity part of culture, but actually allowing us to focus on that by taking away some of these mundane tasks or things that AI can do better for us. One, I think it's just that understanding. And I think it's transparency. I think it's communicating from the top. We talk about it, our CEO, our chief technology officer, we're all talking about it and how we're using AI and what it means and what it doesn't mean. And the fact that a lot of what we do as an organization is meeting with our customers and working through things. And those relationships can't be replaced by AI. Now, some of the work behind the scenes, a lot of the work behind the scenes could be. So again, I think it is really focusing on that transparency. I also think maintaining this, I'm going to say like human first design, right? So it's ensuring that people are really engaged in how we're leveraging and building this AI so that we are ensuring that people feel comfortable and that we're making decisions in the right way. And then the ethical guardrails, right? Everyone has to deal with. I think the HR and legal teams are making sure that if there are algorithms in how you select talent, that there isn't bias in those. And there's been a lot of things in the news around that. And I think we have to be really hyper vigilant in ensuring that whatever algorithms we're building or processes or feedback loops, that we are ensuring like the human piece is involved in that and that we are testing it robustly and ensuring that it doesn't have biases and things that could get us in trouble or make employees feel that they aren't being seen. I think those are some of the things that help build that. I actually think AI is also really good at creating and personalizing employee experience. So for years and years, we talked about this like employee experience and have it your way and tailor it to your employees. It's hard to do, right? If you have big teams, if you have a group of people that want something diametrically different, I think as a leader, it's really hard. And so I do think AI is going to help us personalize career development and things for our employees that we just as humans can't do in that type of scale. And so I also feel like that will build people's trust because if they're growing their careers, if they're learning, if they're getting the opportunities, then they can see the value. And it isn't just AI, but it's your leader and AI together. So I think those are some of the things that will really help.
Yeah, you know what? You got me thinking about something. We've talked about this a couple of times on the show in a little bit of a different way, but the idea of AI is not like some secret cheat code that you need to like hide in the background and not be transparent about the fact that you're using. And the way that you talked about it with even personalizing the employee experience, right? So maybe a manager using AI to really understand the specific preferences, right, of particular employees and tailoring what they're doing towards that. Like it improves the employee experience, but there's a piece of that I think that makes people initially have a reaction to, wouldn't I be a better manager if I just remembered all this stuff on my own? And I think that's where we're going to need to shift. It's the fact is that it makes you a better manager. Who cares how it happens? If you're a better manager, your team members having a better experience. But I think then also being transparent with our team members about how we're using it so it doesn't feel like artificial in any sense.
Yeah.
And really, employees know that we are doing this because we care about them. I love when guests share something that gets me thinking about something a little bit differently, even though we've talked about that AI as the cheat code a few times on the show so far. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
What do you think that we as HR leaders need to relearn or maybe unlearn in order to lead effectively in this next wave of AI-driven transformation?
Yeah. I think a lot. I think first off, I think of recognizing that the change fatigue is real. One of the things are moving so quickly. And I think we just have to also just recognize that everyone's on a different, pace in their learning and comfort with AI. So I think you can't communicate too much around it. I think you have to have empathy around it. And you have to build consistency with bringing people along on the journeys. That's right, change management 101. But I don't think we can overemphasize that as a huge one. I think the other thing is AI, and it's funny, this is something that I've always been really a proponent of before AI, and now I think it works well in an AI environment, is this notion of iteration, right? Like I worked on teams where we can't roll that out because it's not fully baked and it's not perfect. And I'm like, nothing's ever fully baked and nothing's ever perfect. And frankly, half the time when you roll something out, it's better to roll it out when it isn't completely done because you are going to get feedback and then you can iterate. And so I always say we should operate in this sense of like perpetual beta, right? And be honest about it, right? We're going to roll out this performance management coach to help you. And oh, by the way, we'd love your feedback on what it did and what it didn't do and what you'd love to see it do. And I think that goes for pretty much anything. And whether it's an HR process or a business process. So really getting comfortable with this notion of iterating and agility and it not being perfect. And I think that's something that a lot of us type A's struggle with. And then I think it's like moving away from like these process owners to like capability builders. I think focusing less on the process steps and more on like how do we enable people to actually use the tools? It's not a guide on here's the process. It's how do you ask AI the right questions and right prompts to get the solutions, and then how do you then ask it again? And those are the things, those capabilities, I think we're all learning. Some people, maybe that's more innate, but I think that is something that we're going to have to work really hard on from like an HR and just leadership perspective. And then I just think this notion of the learning agility and problem solving and being the keys to the kingdom versus someone that deeply knows a process or a system. Because at the end of the day, and we all know things are moving so fast. I think even what we were talking about AI 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago, it is accelerated so fast that if you're not comfortable with this kind of ambiguity and learning, like learning on the fly and problem solving in a new area, it's going to be hard to keep up. And it's hard because gone are the days where people were these deep subject matter experts and they were valued for that. And not to say they're not, but it's just, the world is just changing so fast now. So I think, how do we get people in this like iterative, like just feeling comfortable with, okay, you learned something last week and oh, by the way, it's changed this week and that's okay. But just being open to the fact that things are just going to keep moving at such a fast pace. And then this was not my quote. So someone said, treating AI as your best collaborator, not your competitor. Leaders who win are going to be the ones that learn how to work with the intelligent tools, not trying to compete against them. And that's, I think, pretty intuitive and simple. But frankly, when you get into it and start working on some of these things, I think you start wondering, oh my gosh, is your employees, people are thinking, is AI going to take my job? And again, I don't think it is. It's going to change jobs and it's going to take tasks and move things around. But really, it's how do you feel comfortable with AI as your co-pilot versus the thing that you have to beat. And so those are some of the things I think just innately, like in the human element, how we just respond to all this change.
Totally. And I think it's going to be particularly interesting in organizations or roles, right, where folks were particularly affixed to their deep subject matter expertise, as you've said, or really reliant on process and maybe not having to step outside and rethink things all the time. That feels like a thing that we're really needing to add in our teams, which should hopefully be freeing for folks, right?
Yeah.
It should be, I think we can make it more exciting. The idea of really getting to use your very human and uniquely human intelligence and thought processes in like how you design your work and how you operate is really exciting, but it can be daunting if you've been in a job that's been very procedural for a long time. And I think that's the shift that we're going to have to help people through, which is, I think, at the crux of what you're saying there. Every single time I get a CHRO on the show, I could keep going on deep questions. So I'm going to pull us, though, to the lightning round. So some quick hit questions to get your thoughts on a few topics. So first one is, what is one misconception that you think HR leaders have about AI adoption?
I think you can treat AI like adoption as a project, and it's not, right? I think it's what we were just talking about. It's a capability shift. It's a culture shift. It's a leadership shift. And I think that is really what is going to change the game. So wrapping your head around, there is a very different way to do something with AI, and building that into the kind of culture, I think, is going to be a huge one versus tackling it like there's a project plan, because I think it's going to go in every which way. And I don't know that there's any way to perfectly manage it. So I think focusing more on just that culture and capability shift, I think, is going to be an important one.
Yeah, treating it like a project implies to me anyways, like there's a start and an end, and I don't see that for sure. So that's one thing. And really having, like, it needs to be embedded everywhere. So how can it's just so much bigger than a project, right? It really needs to have tendrils into everything is one of the ways I've been thinking about it. So I love that one. What is one metric that you are relying on most when judging an AI pilot success or any sort of AI tool's success?
I think as it relates to I mean, there's probably different ones in the business. I would say for HR, I think employee adoption and sentiment are probably, you said one, but two that I think are going to be really important. Are they using it? And then how do they feel about it? I think those will help us create this agility. And as we change things, I think the same probably goes in our customers too, right? Adoption. And are we seeing more traffic across the network? Are we getting more retailers and suppliers? I think our new subscribing customers would hopefully go up as well. So I think those are some of the metrics that we just use in general. But I think on the employee side, definitely adoption and sentiment.
Awesome. And so last question, a fun little one that we call keep one and drop the rest. So if you had to choose between a single consolidated tech platform or choosing the right endpoint solutions to be able to get to best of breed, especially for AI, which would you choose and why?
This one's very near and dear to my heart. I'm coming from what I would say I inherited. I don't know if it was best in breed, but I think that's what we were trying to go for. And we are moving to a platform consolidation with Workday. And so for me, I think with some of the solutions we have, I think Workday for HR being one of them, I think that's the way to go because single source of truth ensures consistency with data, it's scalable. There's so many things, so many other tools that plug in to Workday and all the APIs and all the companies that they're either partnering with or buying. I think for me, I think that's definitely the way to go. Partly because I've been dealing with the other and it's been super painful.
Totally get it. Yeah. And so it sounds like you'll still be using things like the performance coach that you described coming up with, but obviously not dealing with disparate platforms for core employee records and basic processes. That is a pain. I've been there, done that too. Not fun, but still when there are places and spaces where there's a tool that's doing something really specific and really well, and it can connect to the other tools or the main platform that you're using. So I think we made up a hybrid answer for you there, in fairness.
It's
okay. Awesome. So this is the hardest part of my job in hosting. So I'm going to try to recap way more than 3 or 4 good ideas to leave folks with, but I'll give you my takeaways. So I loved where we started when you talked about inviting employees to co-create with you, right? So that they feel a part of something and not something is being done to them. That's a concept we've had to apply across many things over the course of our roles as HR practitioners, but it applies very much here as well. So I loved that concept. You talked about transparency building trust. And so I extended that a little to transparency building trust in the tools, and then just layering on having the right guardrails there to make sure that you're responsibly using AI, that you're checking for bias, you have human in the loop, all of that, but be transparent with your team members. I think you echoed that very loudly, which I think is important. And then I'm stealing this one officially, though, perpetual beta, because I'm all for iteration and I just haven't heard it said exactly that way. But just that there's a lot of change management in our future. And it is all change management 101, right? It's helping people through change, but it's building these teams that are resilient, they're agile, and they're able to stay in this state of perpetual beta. That it is better to sometimes get ideas out there, programs out there, tools out there to be able to allow for feedback and iteration and to expect that. And that idea of perpetual beta, I loved because it really set the tone for that. And I have a 4th one with no additional commentary because it stood pretty well on its own, is thinking of AI as your best collaborator and not your competitor. So I love that one too. This was awesome. I'm sure that listeners are going to take more away from this than the recaps that I gave. But that was how I recapped our conversation. And Erica, we always let guests have the final word. And so if you were to offer some advice to HR leaders who are just starting out on their AI journey, what is one piece of advice you would give to those leaders?
Yeah. I would say embrace and experiment. Like all the things that whether it's in your personal life or related to work, I mean, leveraging whether Chat GPT, whatever AI friend and collaborator you want to use, but really practicing and experimenting and iterating. In the beginning, it's scary, but I think you can do some pretty fun stuff with it, especially when you throw some of your personal stuff. So I think spending some of your own personal time on it, I think, is a great way to just get started and feel comfortable so that you can talk to others about it.
Agreed. This was so fun. Thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon. It was great to chat.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on The Human Element, presented by Whisk. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow The Human Element wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Barb Biden. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.